It. All right, so this is Andrea King with the Data Center, and we are ready to go for our Durham HMIS users meeting for October. All right, so let's get started. And with our agenda today, we've got a big focus on federal reporting. You may have seen those corrections coming through your email, so we'll go over that. And there are just a couple follow-up items from the data standard updates, and then we'll dive into some tips about how to make those corrections, what we need to move forward there. And then coming up on the calendar, we've got agency check-ins coming up, and some updates about some training, and then the calendar. We do need to determine what to do with November and December, because we are coming into holiday season. So if you have a strong opinion, stay tuned. All right, so let's start off with system updates. I do see some chats coming in. Just want to make sure those are okay. All right, system updates. We have a couple things just to note about the data standard updates. So there were a few changes for all projects, all project types rather. We've got updated language for race, ethnicity, and gender. Remember, those are all self-identified by clients. We also had a slight language change for the better, I think, for disabling condition, and some more options for coordinated entry event. Right now, we're not relying on coordinated entry event in Durham, but it can be a helpful, potentially a helpful way in the future to record referrals to programs like EHVs, other vouchers. So take a look there. The permanent supportive housing projects have some new elements. And we are, still waiting for some guidance from HUD about how to ask and what they're using those for. But I'm really excited about the moving on assistance. I think that will help us a lot with measuring and tracking those important outcomes. HOPWA also has a new data element and an updated list for medical assistance. And then SSVF, they just really revised your targeting criteria for homeless prevention. So that is very revised and just a slight consolidation for financial assistance. So the big change that we saw once the updates actually occurred in the system was gender. This was a surprise to everyone here at the data center across the nation. I went to a conference a couple weeks back. We were like, what's going on? Anyway, so this is how they've decided, WellSky's decided to give us our multiple choice, our multiple identities options in Service Point, and so that's a great outcome, right? The key thing here is that it might not be clear on first glance how to select multiple responses for our clients. So I did want to just point out that if you're on a Windows computer, you can select, hold down Control and then use your mouse, use your cursor to select multiple rows, multiple gender identities. So if someone does come presenting as a transgender man, then we can select the transgender option and the male option. So hopefully this will better align with folks' identities, but it's not obvious how to select multiple identities. So I just want to just flag this for y'all.
So you said that
questions?
you like highlight, let's say transgender, and then you click Control, and then you select male or female, and that's how you would enter that?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay.
I can jump in. It's, if I show you what it looks like, basically there will just be two 2 rows that are blue. That's what happens.
And they don't have to be like one above the other. Oftentimes when you highlight, if they're not sequential, it doesn't highlight those in between?
It doesn't, no.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So you can select questioning and a gender other than single. Yeah, absolutely. So however the client is identifying, you should be able to select that. But it is different than how they interpreted the multiple identities for race, right? So you didn't update that part. So we still got primary, secondary, third, fourth, fifth race. Yeah, any other questions there? It is a lot of real estate. I just want to acknowledge that. Like that was a lot of.
Actually, I do have a question, and I shook my head no, but that was a lie. I totally do.
You sure did. I saw it.
Yeah. So what's the difference between questioning and client doesn't know? Because
absolutely.
those
So
are
questioning,
the same to me.
So they are different. Client doesn't know is, similar to other questions. They are. It's in this sense. It's very related to like client reviews. Like they're not sure how to answer the question. Questioning is that the client is really reflecting on their gender identity specifically and exploring their own identity, and they're not sure exactly where they fit in with gender identities. So it's very specific to gender and that exploration of how they identify. All right, so we talked a little bit about the gender in particular. That and the other updates have been updated in our main 3 dashboard reports. I believe the SOCF export is now complete. The APR and the CAPER are definitely updated. WellSky did update this on the 15th. One big change that you'll see in the APR and the CAPER is gender. That's table 10A. And how they've set this up to reflect multiple identities is if a client identifies more than one gender, then they will be listed under no single gender. So that is that other option there that you'll see. Okay. We also just wanted to let you know we've confirmed that our key reports weren't impacted by the updates, so those seem to be working. Sometimes when there's big updates, they crash reports, right? If you do have a report that doesn't seem to be pulling, you think it's related to the change in the data standards, please let us know so we can get that mapped and corrected. All right, any other questions about data standards? All right, we're going to dive into some alphabet soup. So we are going to entering our HUD reporting season, and this is, peak acronyms. So we wanted to just go over a couple of these. We are going to be reporting for all of these combinations of letters. We're going to be reporting to HUD on the longitudinal system analysis, which is a kind of multi-year report that is contributing to the annual homeless assessment report, AHAR. And it's AHAR that is actually delivered to Congress. That's what Congress reviews and uses to identify and plan for funding. So that is a really important report that goes to Congress, and our HMIS data is kind of is pulled and organized through that LSA report. Right after the LSA, we'll have submission for system performance measures, which includes a few that are in the LSA, but also some additional measures like the increases in income for COC funded projects. So these are really outcome based reports that look at our whole community and see how, as a system, we are working to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring. And then we'll finish up the season with a HIC and a PIT. These are 2 one-day counts, one for housing inventory, which is more of the capacity of our homeless dedicated projects in the community. And then the point in time, I also call it the people count. This is the one where we are actually counting individuals experiencing homelessness or formerly experiencing homelessness. And together, those can help us see utilization of services and give us kind of a whole picture of the system in and outside of HMIS. So what are we actually looking at for these key reports? We wanted to just remind us about what the time period is for each of these, and there's a lot of overlaps between the time period and also the focus of these reports. Our approach this year to the HUD reporting season is kind of integrated and comprehensive. We're trying to get our corrections for all of these out of the way so y'all can focus on the important work that y'all are doing. So let's go through these reports. The LSA, this is, based on the federal fiscal year and a look back period. So clients can be pulled in anytime from 10/1/2018 through the end of September of this year. So know that their enrollments could cover some time pretty far back, potentially. Now, we've already gone through this process for those fiscal year 19 and 20, so there shouldn't be too many kind of older clients. But as data shifts, right, we've got different ways of looking at this, and so potentially some older client enrollments could come up. The LSA really focuses on household composition, so we're looking at a child alone or multiple heads of households, client location, key kind of threshold question that is required for heads of households, always Durham, and demographics. The LSA actually produces some pretty cool information about that allows us to look at equity and different outcomes based on race, gender, and ethnicity. So demographics are really important. Just the enrollments in terms of entries and exits, overlaps, that sort of thing, and utilization. So both the LSA and the HIC look at utilization, meaning the number of people versus the number of beds or permanent housing slots that are listed in HMIS. So that's our most comprehensive one, but system performance measures also have some key focus areas on homeless history, dates of engagement for our street outreach projects. That's really key for those exit outcomes, and housing move-in dates. So important. So we are actually really drilling down into housing move-in dates this year. We had some problems last year, and so we're really asking you to verify, are your housing move-in dates up to date? That's a very important outcome to show you're connecting folks to housing. Exit destinations, of course, we've heard that drumbeat for 5 to 10 years, depending on how long we've been here. And then annual assessments. Annual assessments are in particular incorporated into the system performance measures, and so we'll be checking for any overdue or misaligned annual assessments. The housing inventory count, takes a lot of the information that we have looked at for the LSA and system performance measures, but drills in on one night. So that's going to be the last Wednesday in January, January 26th, 2022. It's coming. So we're trying to get prepared now so that February, March, April are much easier, and we don't have to go back and forth as much. All right, so we're including a lot of information. We've gone over kind of those federal fiscal years. Those are those specific dates if you wanted to run, say, a report on a specific year to check what's going on. And then just a note that these reports are really looking at certain project types. So we are looking at street outreach, emergency shelter, transitional housing, rapid housing, and permanent supportive housing projects during this reporting period. So other projects, our coordinated entry and supportive services or prevention, those contribute information maybe to these projects, but they're not the focus of this reporting period. Okay, and we do go back 3 years because folks who exit to permanent housing destinations may return to our system, and so we have to bring in some of that older data. Right. So how do we prepare? We are, we've sent out errors, potential red flag corrections to each agency beginning back in the beginning of October. And these corrections or reviews are due by Friday, November 12th. But we really are looking at progress for these. So we are refreshing, we're re-pulling the reports every 2 weeks or so we can see the progress within the actual reports to be submitted. And then we're also, hoping to communicate with you throughout. So what do you need to do? If you haven't already, really review that list of client issues and correct if you have accurate information. Right? We're always saying that missing is better than inaccurate information. So just let us know if you can't correct something. We also want to note that you can share corrections among HMIS users. So, if folks are entering data, they can also help clean up and confirm that data, especially if they're the ones working with a client. And we really do want to encourage communication from agency admins on ongoing progress each week. So some lists are longer than others. It can take a couple weeks to get through them. So we really want to hear from you about how it's going. Are there roadblocks and what the progress is? So how do you communicate about that? What are the responses that can possibly happen? So when you have a client level error or potential error, this is the 3 possible options. We corrected it, right? You found the correct info, you're able to put it in the system. Awesome. That's really helpful to know. I cannot correct it. This is where, someone has a null exit destination. They're gone. Never heard from them again. No contact information, right? You can confirm that as missing and we will cross it off your list. Isn't that exciting? It will no longer appear on your list of corrections. So let us know. And that's actually really, you're paying it forward to yourself too. We keep those confirmations. So we still have those from last year. And when we pulled the reports this year, we cross-reference that list to avoid asking you the same questions over and over, at least during this reporting period. It looks correct when I look at it. This is the other thing that can really help us find report issues. If you're looking at something and you don't see the error, you have a different kind of level of vision on your data. And so this can really help us identify, okay, well, is the issue at another agency? Is it the report itself? That really helps us dig in deeper and potentially correct an issue for the whole community. I've got a question. from SSVF in the chat. Hey, Therese. So this type of error, first off, I mean, each report is different, right? So the reports are looking at different things. Your SSVF export does include some of these same, there's some overlap in the errors that they're looking for. You actually have more that's being pulled into the export though, because you have veteran-specific questions, like that Veterans Information Subassessment, BAMC, those sorts of things. But, you know, demographics, relationships to head of household, client location, exit destination, all of these will contribute to the health of, and the corrections for your export, your next export. So there's definitely benefit to reviewing these corrections, not only for these HUD reports, but for your other you know, funding reports or local reports. Now, when we send you those corrections, we're sending you an Excel spreadsheet. If you would like, you can actually mark on that spreadsheet whether it's, you know, corrected, confirmed, an issue, and that could be really helpful if you want to send that back to us. Not required, just a suggestion, because we are tracking these issue by issue, client by client, agency by agency. Okay, so in case we haven't emphasized it enough, communication is key. We really, really need your help to do this. HUD is contacting COCs with these very same questions. So we're really trying to not have to bug you again. And we don't want to, you know, reach out to you if you've already reviewed something, you already exhausted your resources. So just let us know. You know, make sure you're also communicating internally. Sometimes that can be confusing too if we're reaching out to agency admins and other folks, and not everyone knows exactly where the progress is. All right, so let's look at our progress so far. We're about halfway through, but we still have a significant amount of outstanding issues. We're about a quarter of our issues. We're at 24% for confirmed. We've got 10.8% fixed. There's a few report issues, 16, but no response at 63.8%. So that is, that's pretty significant. That's well over 1,000 errors that we're waiting on. So we really do want to encourage you, reach out if you need assistance. You can definitely reach us, you know, individually with your assigned data center staff person or HMIS@ncch.org. Really want to hear from you so we can cross those off the list. Any questions about that process? All right. So we do want to go over a few things that might help you organize these reviews and these questions. We really want to remind you that when we're sending you the list of client issues, these are red flags, right? It's possible that there isn't enough information to correct this issue, but your agency, your staff will know best. So that's why we're coming to you. You know the most about what happened with that client. If you'd like, you can take a look at this and make notes in the additional notes column. It's a great way to respond back and just stay organized for each of those. All right. We also have sent a report correction guide with each of those, at least the very beginning email. This is a fairly comprehensive process and instruction guide on how to fix different issues that we've identified. So we use the very same name. So if you see, you know, this veteran error on your Excel sheet, then you can look up the demographics and errors here for how to correct that, right? So this has got step-by-step instructions, some screenshots, and links also to more in-depth trainings if you want to kind of broaden the context on that. In particular, on each of these kind of subtopics, we've got the impact, some key things to remember, and then those specific steps. So, you know, just each step from logging in to how to correct that if you have the accurate information. All right, hopefully that is a helpful resource. If you see, oh, I do want to say, if you see any issues or have suggestions about how to make this more helpful, please feel free to let us know. We try to update this each reporting season and want this to be a useful tool to you. And if you have misplaced that, just let us know. We can send you that link or attachment again. All right, so again, we're really emphasizing how to correct some null responses. It's a good opportunity to just remind ourselves what are null responses and why do we point these out each time, right? And that's because a null response does not explain the client situation. It doesn't give us any information about what happened to the client, who the client is, what situation they may be facing. So we've got our most common ones like client doesn't know, client refused. And again, this is totally the client's right. It is their right to either not know or refuse a question. But it is our responsibility to try to explain what we're asking and why. And we want to really minimize that missing data. So doesn't know is really only if a client does not know that response, and refuse is if the client absolutely will not answer. Data not collected is different than these first two options. This is a kind of administrative, this is the agency side of a null response. So this is if staff forgot or were unable to ask a question. So this is the absence of even posing the question so the client couldn't respond. So we really want to minimize data not collected especially. No exit interview no exit interview is an example of some of the specific data element null responses. So sometimes there are different ways of framing we don't know in different questions. For exit destination, no exit interview it may be accurate, but it is not helping us understand was there a positive, neutral, negative exit destination. And so this is, still kind of equivalent to data not collected, but it's a little bit more specific for some of those questions. We also want to highlight other because, again, this doesn't help us explain the client situation. Rarely is this response valid because there are usually so many other drop-down options, probably too many drop-down options, right? We get overwhelmed by the 31 exit destinations. But that is really something we want to minimize. So we will ask you to double check, okay, are there any notes there? Does another option really work better? I've got a question in chat about street outreach projects. Thanks, Sergey. So is data not collected different for street outreach projects? Yes and no. So street outreach projects have just a higher barrier, more obstacles to getting information because you're building a relationship with someone like very separated from all other supports. That takes time. Sometimes you don't get enough time to get all the answers. So it is something that we still want to minimize for street outreach, but there is an understanding that for street outreach projects, you'll likely have more data not collected than other project types. If someone is staying in your shelter, we should really minimize those data not collected a lot more than street outreach, where you're not sure where you're going to meet someone at any given time, right? Like that whole, you're not necessarily meeting in the office. So that definitely there are there's a greater for street outreach. Like we still want to minimize that, but we expect more confirmations from you. I guess that's the way, like you definitely might not have that information. So just let us know and we'll take it off the list. Yeah, Rebecca.
Yeah, so I know, so when we got our corrections, we were going back and looking at things and reached out to the data center, and we were told not to put data not collected and just to leave things blank if a client hadn't agreed to our services and we were just outreaching them.
Oh, copy that. Okay. So you're for clients that don't have a date of engagement.
Right.
That's a specific situation. Understood. Yeah. So that, yeah, a blank response there is fine. Yeah.
Just wanted to
I
clarify.
think what our staff was trying to do is, yeah, for that part of street outreach, it is very different. You haven't connected with that client. They haven't accepted your services. It's, yeah. I guess I should clarify, it still will be considered null, right? And we'll still ask you about it, but you can confirm that that's as accurate as you have. All right, so there are some resources
Andrea?
that we, oh yeah.
This is Valeria. Can you clarify that again? So are you saying that we should only, if we have not engaged with a client, we put down on the data error spreadsheet indicating, I believe we have resolved, but engagement date not identified, something to that nature? Or are we correct in doing that?
Yeah, that would be super helpful. If you're confirming missing information, you can say, you know, confirm we don't have this, no date of engagement. And that just clarifies a little bit further for street outreach, the exact nature of that relationship, the fact that there really isn't a relationship with the client yet, right? Like you're still building that. So that would definitely be helpful.
And I'm sorry, could you also clarify when we use data not collected?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's totally appropriate to use data not collected in the case that Rebecca was bringing up. Oh gosh, I went too far. It's appropriate to use that because you don't have a date of engagement. What I think it was maybe Katie was saying was like you don't have to go through each of those clients and mark data not collected just because of that unique time period for street outreach projects where you're developing the relationship. I would say after date of engagement, you need to have a response for those questions, and they really shouldn't be data not collected, right? Does that make sense? Or answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, cool. Street outreach is our special snowflake of the project types. Good questions. All right, so hopefully there's enough resources for you. We've got our correction guide. We've got how to run and read the CAPR and APR. Those are really great dashboard reports to run to make sure that, you know, if you were able to correct something, you see those error rates go down. You can run that for, you know, the right time period, the right federal fiscal year. And then our staff are also hosting weekly opportunities to work with data center staff. Katie and Tanya are hosting happy hour to hopefully the brighter side of HUD reporting corrections. And this is happening Wednesdays from 3 to 4 for the next few weeks through our correction period. So the last one will be, I think, November 10th. And they've got some really good content to start off just to anchor some tips, but it's really free form for answering your questions and going through your corrections. Yeah, Lloyd.
Thanks. Question about the happy hour. Can people bring their favorite beverage to that? Just want to check in on that.
Yes, pumpkin spice lattes are approved for those, yes.
All right, very good. Thanks.
All right. And then we did record a data quality reports training a few weeks back, and this is more for reference. You can definitely check the slides out later. But if you're looking for a review of how to correct something in that workflow in the system. I just identified here a few different times where you can check out some different errors and how to correct those based on finding the error in the APR or the paper. All right, so we're dealing right now with some spooky correction lists, but we can avoid these larger correction lists if we are working with our data on a regular basis. So we encourage you to really review reports at internal staff meetings, review them with leadership so they know how important this is, the awesome outcomes that you can show, the really good work that you're doing, who are you working with, or some of the challenges. We really encourage you to run these run reports at least monthly and quarterly. So looking at the last month can be really helpful, but looking at the last quarter after reviewing each month, that can also catch things before correction periods. And then another tip, if you have a new HMIS user, show a little more support in those first couple of weeks. If they have just started to enter data, run a quick caper, run a quick APR, see if those error rates have gone up, and you can interrupt any potentially bad habits that could start. But definitely reviewing this data, it can be used for celebrations as well as corrections, right? So there's a lot to celebrate in your data. All right, so what's next? Yes. Up next, we are going to be asking for, oh, sorry, Lloyd, did you have a?
Before we get off this topic of the corrections and things, if I might, good morning, everyone. Wanted to emphasize, I think, the importance of this process of correcting errors and getting our data in the HMIS as accurate as we can make it. I looked briefly at the continuum of care application, and this year HUD is making almost 1/4 of the total points available on the continuum of care collaborative application, specifically available for our reporting to HUD on our housing inventory count, our point in time count, and our system performance measures. So we could say, well, our organization really doesn't get continuum of care funding. Fair enough. But we know that continuum of care funding overall is an important source of funding for our overall community efforts to help people who are experiencing homelessness particularly to get back into housing through rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing programs. So if we're interested in serving people experiencing homelessness in Durham, hopefully we'd want to do all we can in a collaborative and community way to maximize our community's efforts to get funding not only from HUD, but from private donors, from the broader community, so that we can reduce homelessness throughout our community. So hopefully it is a community-wide effort, and really encourage that. And if we get a HUD permanent housing bonus in 2021, we're hopeful that we might this year. That would be nearly $100,000. I think over $90,000 would be available to us for a new project this year, and that would it's hard to find one donor that would make that much money available to our community. So we really are grateful for everybody's work on this effort, and appreciate the HMIS work that's being done by the various community agencies. Thanks.
Absolutely. Yes, this is really important work. Thank you. Right. So let's look ahead at what's next. The adventure continues. So we talked a lot about preparing for these reports and how inventory is a really big question. And there's some other pieces that kind of back end sort of administrative pieces that do contribute to the LSA, and the HIC. And so we really want to make sure that those are ready to go too. To do that, we want to check in with y'all and get some key information on, how those individual corrections are going if needed. We want to give you the opportunity to review your users and roles. Is everyone that needs a license on board, or are there some that could be, given back to the community to use? Since HMIS licenses are a shared resource. The other thing that we want to do is review your funding sources and your projects. Do we have everything that's needed built out? Is the funding source correct? Do we have an updated grant ID? All of those things are actually double checked and reviewed by HUD. And then, of course, vetting the inventory. If you had any significant changes, we're in a kind of had some pandemic swings, maybe that has impacted your inventory. Just want to confirm going into the HIC if we can get something as up to date as possible. We are going to be sending those out to schedule and to get this information. This will take place between November and January, but wouldn't it be great to get this done before the end of the year? Get that off your list. So we'll be asking for just a little bit of your time to review this check-in and checklist. So it's a nice PDF form. You can fill it in online or print it out, send it back to us, and we've got a nice report to just identify your projects, your funding sources, let us know what corrections are needed so we can get that ready. All right, and then I do have a bit of an update here on our learning management system. This is our new training system coming soon. We are going to be gradually transitioning from the current trainings on YouTube into this LMS. This will help us, track training and users over time in a more efficient way. Really expand the capacity for updating trainings and re-recording those. We haven't really been able to do a lot in terms of those core trainings, and they need to be updated. So they are on the docket to be updated. First up, we're going to introduce everyone to the LMS with the annual privacy training and just a little quiz on the new data standards. So information for that will be coming soon. And our team at ICA, who's working on this, Sean, Carly, Aaron, they're really great, and they're really dedicated to short, crisp, accurate training. So we tried to cut down the time and everything from our previous training system and HMIS, and we're going to be making those bite-sized trainings even better. So I'm very excited about that. So stay tuned. So now we have a decision ahead of us. We've got our check-ins and our corrections coming up. The deadline again for those client-level corrections is November 12th. So that means getting everything reviewed and corrected by then. And then we have some user meetings coming up, but maybe we should think about changing these. Who wants to join me online on Thanksgiving? Anyone? No. So let's not do that. Let's reschedule this. And then our December meeting is scheduled during the winter holidays. It's pretty close. So probably you're either going to be really busy with your holiday things at the agency, or hopefully spending some time with family and friends. So should we reschedule these? I think probably we've got a affirmative for that. Last year, what we did was we rescheduled to kind of combine them, and we just did one the first week of December. So we had our user meeting from November and December kind of smushed together for that first week of December. I don't know if that is a good time for folks. We do want to check in, show us our progress on some things, and make sure there's time for at least another batch of updates, but we know that it is getting busy this time of year. So what do you all think about condensing these into one meeting? No, we want to have two? Okay. Oh, nope, I've got a thumbs up. Okay.
No, we're no, the thumbs up was for one meeting, like just knock it out in one.
All right. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Ain't nobody got time for
that.
2 meetings, Andrea. Nobody has time for that. No one.
Let's do it. Okay, so I will take a look there. I think we could do the Thursday the 2nd at 10, keep it semi-consistent, or is that's our community meeting the first Thursday?
I think December 2nd works on my calendar. December 9th is the monthly performance management committee meeting for Durham. So I'd recommend December 2nd if that works for others.
It doesn't work for you, Anne.
No, I was going to say I prefer the 9th. So whatever, I mean, I can miss one and try to send someone else.
We'll record it. We'll record it for sure.
December 2nd works for me, if that matters. I can be there.
Okay. I too definitely try to go to those funding and performance subcommittees. So that's the 2nd or the 3rd, Friday the 3rd. Does that work better for folks?
But who wants this meeting on a Friday? Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Let's be
all
real
right,
with
I
ourselves.
was just trying to get out of another meeting Friday morning by scheduling over it. So that's okay though. Thursday the 2nd it is. Fantastic. Thursday, December 2nd at 10 a.m. I will send out confirmation of that and change our, mark that down, save the date, and we will definitely see you then. All right. Well, please do reach out at HMIS@ncch.org. We are excited to hear from you there. I will note that our colleague Tanya is out of the office next week, so we'll be definitely taking a look at her tickets if there's anything outstanding. But just a heads up, if you were trying to reach her, maybe send us a new email to flag that for us. All right. Well, I'm ready to take any questions or do any additional troubleshooting if you would like. We've definitely got a few minutes to spare here, I guess.
Where's Katie? Is she on this call?
She's not. She's off today. She's taking a long weekend, which is lovely for her.
I will email her. Thank you.
Andrea, this is Lloyd. I was wondering if you might go to the training site and share your screen and demonstrate how to do 2 entries for that gender question, just to confirm that people can do non-adjacent responses.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go into Han Solo here just because I was already logged in. Yeah, so over here on the client profile is where we find client demographics. And as we know, to update or correct client demographics, you go to the pencil. Pencil is that universal symbol for edit. And here we go. So we have our demographics, gender has all those options there. And if we get a correction from Han, we can select however he identifies by using the control button on your Windows computer. I think it's Command on Apple if you're using that. And so then you can select up to 5 responses. If you make a mistake, you just select it again, and it'll read what you need.
And yeah,
Andrea, do you have to, oh, sorry.
no, I just gotta add, so you press the control button and then move your cursor to the option and then press the plus button.
No, you just click on your cursor, your mouse, whatever it is.
Okay, gotcha, okay.
I don't
Thanks.
know.
And do you need to be in backdate mode to fix client demographics?
Yeah, absolutely. So if this is a correction, right? Someone has maybe revealed an identity to you that you didn't know before, you would use both backdate and enter data as mode for intake, because that's where gender is collected.
Thank you.
That's a great question.
An unrelated question that I'm interested in, can we see the returns to homelessness that we are showing so far? Like, is that something easily done or not really? And do we know if it's comparable to other COCs across the country?
Oh, you mean like our total rate of returns to homelessness?
Yeah, and I'd also be curious about the family homelessness returns.
Sure. We don't have that split out by household type. So that's just not how HUD is looking at returns. Nope, it is not easy. Nicole is let me back out. So, Lloyd, I don't think we've shared the initial results of those system performance measures yet with you. We have been just focused on the corrections to make sure that is accurate.
Right,
It would just take some digging.
yeah, this issue came up, or question came up in yesterday's HSAC meeting, and I did check the 2020 system performance measure report, and last year, I think our total rate was like 16% of returns. Of course, that is not, again, broken down by household type. There may be some information in the, it's called the HDX Homelessness Data Exchange 2.0 that breaks it down by household type, but our system performance measures report does not do that. But it's a good question.
But do you know, like, across the country what the return rate is?
Let me go ahead, Andrea.
How are we doing?
I think it's been 20% in the past.
I do believe it's comparable. I'll see if I can get some information about that. I think it may be reported in the annual homeless assessment report to Congress. But again, that generally is it takes a while for HUD to compile that report, and so that when it gets to Congress, it's I think the current AHAR probably would be for the 2019 reporting year. But still, it's a good guide.
All right, I'm looking at a couple of things. other questions while we're looking at that a little bit more? All right, well, really appreciate your time today. I am going to stop recording. I realize we are still recording, but I'll stick around if you have any other questions. Thanks so much, and see you December 3rd, nope, December 2nd at 10 a.m., Thursday, December